Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. So, we have this weekend one of the classic fights in prospect. Welcome to the official press conference for the World Boxing Super Series semi-final. This Saturday, February the 17th at the Manchester Arena. George Groves faces Chris Eubank Jr. live on ITV Box Office pay-per-view from 7 p.m. At stake a place in the final of the World Boxing Super Series and the right to fight for the Muhammad Ali Trophy. Also on the line, the WBA Super World title, which Groves defended for the first time last October so impressively, stopping the previously unbeaten Jamie Cox at Wembley. A week earlier, IBO World Champion Chris Eubank Jr. excelled in his quarter-final, knocking out Avni Yildirim in Stuttgart inside 3 rounds. So we have a semi-final eagerly anticipated since the draw 9 months ago, the sort of fight that this competition's format has made possible. A contest that I think you'll agree has all the makings to be among the great super middleweight contests. On the top table then, Shane McGuigan next to me, trainer to George Groves. George Groves, Chris Eubank Jr., his trainer, Ronnie Davis, and first words from Kalle Sauerland, the Chief Boxing Officer of the World Boxing Super Series. Kalle.
Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Lovely to be here in Manchester. I wouldn't quite say love is in the air, but Tyson Fury said he might pop in and sing that for us later. Great to be here. A great fight city. A city steeped in boxing history. Great fights have taken place here. But something very special is in the air, and I wouldn't call it love. I know it's 14th of February, but I think the tournament, when it's set out to do a number of things. It's set out to unify champions. It's set out to create storylines for the narrative from the draw to the quarterfinals, to the semi-finals, and obviously to the final, which in this weight class will take place on June 2nd at the O2 in London. But it also set out to create narratives and create storylines and build characters. And you know, I think the emergence of the hashtag Groves-Eubank episode, which is about to take place in the fight week, which we embarked upon here on Monday, is credit to the tournament. It's put together a fight that normally take many years to make. I can tell you that from my promotional experience outside the tournament. It's a fight which I think will capture the nation, has captured the nation already. It's a fight between 2 athletes with vast amounts of talent. Some consider it very different areas of talent, but 2 gladiators who will put it all on the line. You have obviously I wouldn't say quite a newcomer, but someone who's definitely come on the scene leaps and bounds in this tournament. He's come on in full force for the obviously the win against Arthur Abraham to get into the tournament, and his spectacular performance in front of that hostile crowd against Yildirim in the quarter-final in such decisive fashion. A week later, the tournament does what it does best. It switches storylines. Wembley, Groves against Cox, George's first defence of the belt in the quarter-final, and obviously he had to give an answer to Eubank's display the week before. He certainly did that, and immediately the attention switched to Manchester. Here we are. I don't need to do much more talking. I think, I've talked about Eubank, now I'd say about George. He's a man who's on a mission. He's had, a career with ups and downs, but is currently riding the absolute crest of a wave. Is the man to beat in the division, no doubt about that. So on Saturday we have the storylines there. Looking very forward to it, and I'm very, very appreciative. It's not always that you get this all over the world, but the British media, fantastic in covering this so far. Please continue to do so. We look forward to Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you, Kalle. First of all, Junior, throughout the hard winter months, what's been motivating you most of all?
What's been motivating me is becoming the #1 super middleweight in the world. And this is my stage, this is my time, this is my opportunity to prove everything that I've been saying is real, and it's to prove that, I guess, the doubters, the naysayers, the keyboard warriors, they were wrong. George Groves is the unfortunate man that has to bear that brunt. What's motivated me is, being a kid, being 14 years old and dreaming of fighting on a stage like this, two of the best super middleweights in the world, putting it all on the line, and me being victorious. That is my motivation.
George, Chris talks about the big stage. He's entering would you agree, a stage maybe he's not been on before, which you have, and what sort of advantage is your pedigree that you've talked about, that pedigree that you've discussed?
Yeah, hello everyone, thanks for coming in, great turnout. Yeah, I've been involved in some big fights, learned a lot along the way. This for me, although it's a tremendous turnout of media, it might be this fight today, but I am in, I think, the form of my life, certainly in the best shape of my career, fully prepared to go out and retain my world title in style. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to the weekend.
In view of that pedigree, George, does it surprise you that Chris is the bookmaker's favourite?
No, nothing surprises me in boxing anymore, to be honest. There's a lot of hype around the fight that usually pushes fights towards being billed as a 50-50. Certainly it's being billed as a 50-50. People are split down the middle, they don't know who's going to win. We know who's going to win. But it makes it that much more interesting for the weekend, for the casual fan, for the spectator. So yeah, we know what we can do, what we will do, and we look forward to going out and doing it, and maybe leaving a few people scratching their heads going, why didn't I quite see that? But as I say, I said it earlier on in the week, it's not an expression that I particularly like, but it comes down to levels, and I'm levels above junior.
Chris, he's levels above.
I mean, that's surprising to hear. You weren't levels above me in my sparring sessions. So I don't know where this newfound confidence comes from, but the talking has been said and done now. Levels and preparation and weight. It's all really irrelevant now. We just have to get in there and perform, and put everything on the line. I'm willing to do that. I don't think George is. I don't think George is fully committed to this fight. I don't think he's willing to give everything to win. I am. There's nothing that George can do that's going to stop me. Absolutely nothing. People are talking about his jab and his weight. This is it's small factors in boxing. What it comes down to is who wants it most. And I think it's plain to see. You just don't want much more than you do.
I don't think it's got really anything to do with who wants it most either, to be honest. Junior.
I think it has a lot to do with it.
George, the motivation? We talked about asking Chris what his motivational factor was throughout the winter months. What's been yours then, if he's questioning your desire?
The same as it's always been, as every fighter is. They know that will to win. I'm winning, I'm enjoying winning, I'm world champion. I want to continue to be, so that's more than enough motivation for me to train when it's a bit cold outside or whatnot. But I've sacrificed a lot. I've been through some terrible times to get to where I am now. Desire is one thing that I know I've always had in abundance. I've been able to pick myself up from the lowest of points and now get back to the top. I'm at the top. I've never been to the top until now. I'm at the top, and I'm enjoying it. And I ain't taking my eye off the ball. Like we are, as I say, I believe I'm in the best shape of my career, without doubt. And looking forward to stepping up on another big stage and showing everyone.
And Chris talks about that sparring that you did, that you've had dozens of rounds together in the past. He clearly thinks that counts for a lot, and that he got the better of those sessions.
Well, good luck to him, because he didn't, and it's irrelevant, because sparring is sparring, and it was a long time ago, And
Was it 50-50? Was it 60-40 in your favour? What was the percentage you give on those spars, George?
in terms of levels of skill and etc., then yeah, I'm levels above you, Chris. Like, in terms of sparring, is sparring, you've got a big head guard on. If you want to bum rush me and let your hands go and try and, you know, it doesn't matter because you're sparring. You can try and do that and there'll be a difference because you're taking it that much more seriously.
But you said that I'm not legitimate and that, you know, I'm not on your level and I'm a gimmick. You call me a gimmick. You know, so I'm just wondering if you could put a percentage on that sparring. You know? I mean, if it was 50-50, or even if it was 60-40 in your favour, then surely I'm not a gimmick. Surely I'm the real deal if I'm staying in there with you at such a young age that I was.
Young age being a year younger than me.
Well, inexperienced. You know, I was a novice compared to you at the time.
I was a novice compared to where I am now.
I still think you're a novice, to be fair. I don't see anything in your style that really makes you an expert in the game. You have a belt, but you know the man you beat to get that belt, I do not rate at all. You've said publicly that you believe he's a better fighter than me, which is, you know, that's an embarrassing statement in my opinion, and any boxing aficionado will agree. Yeah, I mean, you know, hold on to that belt tightly for the next couple of days, man. Sleep with it. Hold it close, and enjoy the rest of your time with it because it's coming home with me on Saturday.
It's not.
Chris, your father's not on the top table for once. You've said that this fight...
Actually, he's not been on the top table a few times. He wasn't on the top table for the UFC fight.
On this occasion as well. You've said though that you feel that this is the fight that takes you out of your father's shadow. It can be that defining for you, correct?
This is a defining fight for me. This is the fight that can propel me to the top of the sport. It gives me the right to say that I am legitimately the best super middleweight in the world. And you know, 2 world titles. You know, that's every fighter's dream, and that's just the beginning. You know, this is collection season. I'm coming for all the belts. After this tournament, all the other guys who hold belts, they're all on the hit list. George Groves is just the first one to bite the dust. A couple of days to go.
Shane, I'm just referring to Senior, who I think referred to you as the PE teacher. Tactically, what sort of fight have you prepared for? Because I know you've obviously done a great deal of work with George.
Well, I'm not going to give away our tactics, but you know, we prepared. I mean, it's the best camp we've ever had together. We've had sparring from the States, someone that's done many rounds of Eubank, and we've had guys in from Germany. We've had just top quality sparring, so we've sparred with Buatsi as well. Real top quality operators, and you know, something that you prepare in the gym, and I don't feel like he's prepared the same way we have. He might have done hundreds of combinations with pads, bags, but in terms of quality sparring competition, he hasn't. I know who he's been sparring with, and you know, we need to go out there, execute our game plan, and come away with a victory. That's it.
Chris and Ronnie, I mean, that's something I think Shane's question, just the degree of training that you do. I mean, you've talked about training yourself, coaching yourself to a point. Ronnie, would you like to have a word on that?
Well, I'm with Chris 7 days a week. I train, we work together. I don't tell him things. He's a phenomenal talent. And in my view, Angelo Dundee, Muhammad Ali, he never told me before, this kid knows what to do. When he climbs through them ropes, I'm not going to be saying, do this, do that. He knows what to do. He's a phenomenal fighter, standing with. And talk about sparring. He's a good sparring. He's on a nut sparring. He's had about 15 different opponents, all good quality boys. That's all he needed. He's just so talented. No matter who you put him in with sparring partners, you're more likely to beat him up. It's very difficult.
Shane's here using the words "we." There is no "we" when that bell goes.
You'll find out.
You know, the only thing that you really need to be worried about, Shane, is having that white towel ready at all times. That's the only job that's going to be significant for you in this fight. Have that white towel ready.
George?
Yeah.
Do you want to have a word in relation to that?
I came here today because I don't really need to engage with Eubank too much, because Junior is Junior. Like, he's flapping already. You know, he's talking about he's very back to sparring. He is a cliche, he is a gimmick, you know. And I've been here, I've done this many, many times. This is just another step along my journey. I'm in great shape. I'm ready to go out and do a proper number on him Saturday night. I'm the legitimate world champion sitting at this table. I'm the #1 seed in this tournament, and I will go on to win this tournament and win it well. And I started with last year, and it will happen. It will continue Saturday night. As I say, I don't really need to drop to his level in terms of the verbal sparring that's going on now, because maybe I am just a little bit too long in the tooth for that sort of stuff. This fight sells itself. I'm ready to go. Hopefully he is too.
Because he keeps calling me a gimmick and Insta famous. You know, you're kind of obsessed with this whole trying to get across to the public that I'm not real. I think it's plain to see that is ludicrous. And you know, if anything, I think you would love to be me. You would love to be in my position. You know, you would love to have the Instagram followers and the style. You're even wearing the same suit I wore when we had our first face-off after your fight. You know, I think you're jealous. I think you're jealous, George. You're in big trouble. You're in big trouble, my friend.
I saw that. I remember that. You're that suit that you wore when you stepped in the ring, yeah?
Yeah,
It didn't look like
the same
it.
color, the same color, the same style of suit.
Same
you're
style.
wearing it today. But thank you for the compliment. I appreciate that you like my style. And
No, I mean, I totally forgot about it, to be honest. If it is similar,
you looked at the pictures and
I
thought,
hope
you know what?
you are.
I'm going to wear that suit for myself one day, and now you're wearing it in this press conference.
I haven't worn this suit before. I
appreciate
mean, maybe you saw me wear this suit and you thought, I'm going to get the same suit. Not the same suit, but a similar suit.
I appreciate the compliment.
Before we go further with the style of wars, we'll open it up to the floor in a minute, guys. But finally, the World Boxing Super Series held a hashtag First Question competition on their social networks this week. The question from @Babs_SP. This is to both fighters. Considering the careers both of you have had and how much is on the line on Saturday, how do each of you think their opponent will respond to defeat? Chris?
You know, the honest answer to that question is I genuinely haven't even processed the outcome of defeat. That it just hasn't entered my mind. I've replayed this fight hundreds of times, you know, in my mind, in my dreams, and you know, I visualized George getting knocked out and I'm standing over him. I visualized the referee stopping the fight. I visualized Shane waving the towel and throwing it in, and I visualized George quitting on his stool just because he just doesn't want any more of the firepower. Not once have I ever visualized myself losing and having to make a speech or whatever. So, yeah, you know, I'm a winner. I don't lose. I don't think about losing.
But going back to the question, how do you think your opponent will respond to defeat? That was the question.
My opponent? Oh, okay. In that case, well, that's another thing I haven't really focused on. I'm not worried about George and his emotions and how he's going to deal with the fight and what he's going to do after the fight. You know, he's lost before on the stage of this. He's been definitively beaten by other men. I haven't. He knows how to lose. He knows how to get knocked out. You know, his chin has an off button. Mine does not. So George will take the loss in his stride. Maybe a retirement afterwards, sail off into the sunset, enjoy himself, enjoy the money. You know, I'm going to help you buy the boat, George.
George?
I'll probably blame his dad and put back down in the middleweight.
So we have a fantastic fight in prospect. Questions from the floor, please.
Well, jumping into boxing, does the winner of
Just wait for the microphone, thank you.
Hello, I'm John from Boxing. Does the winner of this fight win the tournament?
Ooh. Do we cover?
Is that a question for me? No, it's a semi-final. We've got a
It's a
great
semi-final.
semi-final next week as well.
Yes, no, but the winner of this one.
It's a semi-final, but I believe that in the minds of the people, this is kind of like the final. But Callum Smith, Jordan Brayman, they're both two solid fighters, and whoever I face in that final, it will be a superb fight.
Hi, it's Bernadette from Boxing Disclosure. To Chris, please. Obviously, in the past, people have mentioned that your power hasn't been there. What have you guys been doing, obviously, in the gym to improve that?
Well, my stoppage ratio, I think, is like 75%. People don't go 12 rounds against me. So my power is fine. Admiral Yildirim understands that, and George will soon understand that. I haven't really changed anything in my training camp. I've just been focusing on the things I think will suit me best in a fight against George's style. He's got holes in his game which we have worked on diligently to exploit, and you guys get to see that on Saturday.
Just behind you there.
Hi, this is Aaron Cooper from Free Kicks Boxing, and this question is for George. George, lead up to this fight has somewhat been a role reversal in that Chris seems to have been doing the same sort of thing that you were doing in the first Carl Froch fight. Do you think that that's strategy, or do you think that that's just who he is?
I don't know. I haven't really paid that much attention to it. Probably who he is.
Thank you.
Hi, George, this one's for you. Obviously, Chris uses a lot of speed. I heard that you guys have been working on speed and flurries of combinations. Is that something that you've been working on in the gym this particular fight?
Believe it or not, every fight we work on speed and power and everything else that goes into boxing. So nothing special this time around. We've been doing well of late. Obviously, tactically wise, you would slightly adjust for each opponent, but it's pretty much the same.
You work on speed for every fight.
Well, we work on everything. When I punch up.
Why are you so slow then? I don't see any speed in your technique, so I guess you need to, I don't know,
Well,
need
you'll
to
see
switch up your training methods, because that speed is it's just not there, man.
Well, we'll see. See who's landing.
Anyone else? At the back, please.
Question for Chris, Jeff from World Boxing News. Since the Billy Joe Saunders defeat, what have you learned? How have you improved since then?
The number one thing I learned in that fight was to start from round one. I paced myself too early in that fight. I had through inexperience in my first 12-round fight. And since then, I've never made that same mistake. I start as I meant to go on. And Saturday night will be no different. From round one, I will be on top of George, punishing him for having the arrogance to step into the ring with me.
A question for George. In terms of fights, where does this rank in all your fights that you've done so far?
Not on top. It's a fight. It's a meaningful fight. It's going to be a fight that obviously I've got to pay attention to. I'm fully prepared. Not expecting an easy night, but far easier than previous fights I've had. So
It's far easier than what fights? Can I just ask? I'm interested in that statement.
do you want to know that?
Yeah, no, I do. Yeah.
Okay, so this is easier than the Gale fight, both the Froch fights, the Badly Jack fight, the Juvenile fight.
So pretty much every fight in your career so far, this is going to be easy. And I love that mindset.
I've had a lot more fights than that.
I love that
I've had a lot of
mindset.
big fights, a lot of tough
I
fights.
love that mindset because either he genuinely believes that,
I do.
and that means that he's underestimating, which is
I'm not.
very dangerous, or he's lying and he's a fraud. Both of those play into my favour.
Anyone else?
One more question, Shane. How did you respond to being compared to a PE teacher? Did that annoy you?
It might come back and bite them in the arse on Saturday night. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a heck of a fight in store for Saturday the 17th of February, ITV box office, pay-per-view from 7 p.m. as well. And we will now break it open for photo opportunities, the head-to-head and one-to-one interviews. Thank you very much indeed.